Bachi Bros, don't shoot the messenger, but I come bearing bad news. There is going to be no new chapter of Kagurabachi this week. We're going to have to wait one additional week before we see chapter 83 and see what happened after that insane cliffhanger, that battle that we are coming up on. But honestly, I think this is good news because the reason for this break is because Hokazono is feeling under the weather. So the fact that he is actually getting the time to recover and not being pressured to meet deadlines just makes me happy, earnestly, because we know that this industry can be crazy with its pressure and its deadlines and, making authors rush out things they may not be happy with or they may not even be healthy enough to put out. So I'm actually glad that, we're seeing Kagurabachi will go on breaks when the author needs it to. So a good sign ultimately, but yes, we will have no new chapter this week. But I've got some things to yap about with Kagurabachi, so at least we got that. Let's get into it. So first of all, huge shout out to Crazy Beatrice for the generous support and the Kagurabachi love. Thank you so much. And something they talk about in their comment here is in relation to Shiba. We know that he has been touted as being the pinnacle of sorcery. And Crazy was wondering, do I think that that might mean he has two different sorceries? Since we also saw Hakurei lauded for his talent of having two sorceries. And Crazy, if you didn't see, I did put out a video a week or so ago where I talked all about Shiba basically being the GOAT. And I don't know if this is what you're referencing specifically or not, but in that video, I talk about how maybe teleportation isn't Shiba's sorcery. Like he's just using basic teleportation that any sorcerer is capable of, because I can't remember what chapter. It might have been chapter 81, but we found out in the Kamunabi libraries, there are all of these books on basic teleportation and something else, barriers maybe, I can't remember. But the point is, they were things that anyone could learn, right? So to me, I was like, oh, okay, maybe Shiba's teleportation isn't his innate sorcery, and he might even have something else still that he just hasn't even needed to use yet, which speaks to how strong he is, right? Now, we don't know that for sure. Maybe his innate sorcery is the teleportation still. It remains to be seen. But in any case, if he does have an additional sorcery, I don't think that that means he has two. I would then just assume that he is using basic teleportation and has his own sorcery. Now, that was very word salad, so hopefully I'm not losing people. But if that's not what you meant, Beatrice, and you instead meant that he has two different innate sorceries, neither of which we have seen yet, I don't expect that to be the case, because I do feel like that would kind of steal some of Hakurei's shine a little bit. And instead, I think Shiba is just him because he's like that good. And I guess I'm kind of losing what I'm trying to say here. Like, I think he represents the pinnacle of sorcery because he's like the best of the best, and not because he's like an anomaly like Hakurei, who just so happens to be like the exception to the rule that has two sorceries, if that makes sense. But in any case, something else you said was, do you think the reason the enchanted blades are so strong is because they essentially provide you with multiple sorceries themselves in a world where people can only have one? And absolutely, I think that's a huge part of it, right? Like, you're getting so much versatility with an enchanted blade, not to mention like the actual blade and sword play that you get as well. So I certainly think that's a huge part of why they're so powerful. And of course, like the true realms of the blades being capable of some insane things, as we've seen, that seem to go far and above what like a typical sorcery may be capable of. But again, in terms of like how Shiba might scale with an enchanted blade wielder, I think he's right there with how he's being touted again. We know that the Kamunabi only cited, I'm blanking on her name. I want to say Hibiki, but that was the meme for her name. Oh my gosh, what is her name? You guys know who I'm talking about, Flamebone. It'll come to me later. We know that Hyuki, is that right? They said she was an enchanted blade level, and they didn't say Shiba. But Shiba doesn't work for the Kamunabi anymore, so I don't think they would even consider him in that classification. So for my money, I think he's on that level, but we'll have to see. And next up, I got some comments here from Branwyn, so let me run through this piece by piece. And the first thing he says is he thinks the sword bearers would be more resistant to Dakinseki because of the enchanted blades, and I 100% agree with that. It'd be interesting to see how that might come into play. I think one theory we talked about in the previous Kagurabachi video was, what if Samura was using Dakinseki to augment himself, which is why he's been able to like keep on being gassed up this entire time, which I still don't know if I'm like on board with that or not, but I do think that would make sense because we know that their bodies, the enchanted blade wielders, I mean, literally like reconfigured their nervous systems to wield these things. So I think it would only make sense that they're more resistant to Dakinseki and may be able to wield it better than, say, the Hishaku thugs. And then something else Bramwin comments on is this potential Yura Samura fight, how we would have Yura's like root sorcery versus Samura's fire, and how like in terms of types, like Pokemon kind of, like fire would seemingly trump that. And that is interesting. I didn't even think about it. But I do think that Yura is completely outclassed by Samura at this point in the story. I mean, maybe he's not, but just based on the way he's moving and just, how impressive Samura is with that blade, I don't really think many people stack up to him. So, and this leads into the next thing Branwin says. I too think Yura would need the Senuchi blade to stand toe-to-toe with Samura. And at that point, he might trump him, because I do believe him to be very powerful. And then we throw the most powerful enchanted blade on top of that. I think he could probably beat Samura. But the question is, like, will that pairing even happen? Like, Samura may exit the story before that. Yura with the Senuchi might be Chihiro's main antagonist. Not that he couldn't be both, but it'll be interesting to see. But one thing Branwin brings up is the fact that this precedent was established with the Senuchi that other people can wield it even though they're not contracted to it, like during the auction arc, right? So I do think like we could see Yura do something with it even before he becomes its official wielder. It does feel like there's something there. And Branwin also says that he thinks maybe even Yura was from the island and kind of, born of the malediction. Not that like it created him, but like that could kind of be why he's so invested in all of this. And I'm torn. I'm still really torn on what Yura is, what his backstory is. There's something missing. There's something weird about it, though. Like, I think I mentioned this in one of my videos. He looks exactly the same with, like, a big time jump, which could just be Hokazono reusing panels, which is what it was. But, like, looking beyond that, I do think there could be something within the story that explains that. Like, if he's, like, a simulacrum or, like, a clone or, like, a puppet. Not necessarily, like, I don't know the exact word to use, but, like, he's something else, and maybe we really haven't met the true him yet. So, yeah, I don't know. It's one of the more intriguing things, but one of the things Branwin mentions is the fact that his name in Japanese means something like dream or impermanence. So I think that really plays into that as well. So we'll have to see. And then Branwin also said that he had a thought, since they made a whole point of showcasing that Samura wouldn't be able to resurrect himself, like so he couldn't sever his own contract, then what if Chihiro used Aka to copy the Suzaku sorcery, and then he did that for Samura? So like he killed Samura and then resurrected him. And I think it was a few weeks ago where I put out a video talking about how I thought Aka would be the key to Chihiro versus Samura. So I certainly think this is on the table. Like, I think it would make perfect sense for him to copy that and heal someone at some point in this arc. Whether or not it's Samura to free him from the contract or it's someone else to save them, I don't know. But I feel like we almost have to see that. The interesting thing about the specific element you've suggested here, which I've seen a few people say ever since the most recent chapter, is that I don't know if Samura would go for that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he would be happy to just bow out. Meaning, like, if he was severed from the contract, he could just go be a father and live his life, right? Like, he's obviously more motivated than that, and he wants to right the wrongs of the past. So, really, the only way, like, we can't save Samura and also accomplish his mission, right? Because if we sever his contract, then he does not have his sword to wield anymore against the Swordmaster. And maybe he's confident to beat the Swordmaster without his enchanted blade, at least assuming the Swordmaster doesn't have his either, right? So I guess there are possibilities here where you could like sever Samura's contract and then maybe he could still fulfill his mission without it. Everyone lives happily ever after. But assuming he needs that blade to defeat the Swordmaster, then I don't see a world where he's just kin to like let Chihiro handle it and him go live off the rest of his life, right? So, and you can't kill the Swordmaster without killing Samura, so you would have to free Samura first. I'm getting yappy here, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. End of the day, I do feel like we're going to see a big Aka at some point in this arc. And then Bramwin also said he wonders if Samura plans on actually killing the Swordmaster or just killing him the same way Iruha did, just breaking his contract. And to me, I think he truly wants to kill him. I don't think he's trying to like save him from the enchanted blades like Iruha or Chihiro or anything. Like he seems to be truly disturbed at what happened in the malediction. And it seems to be that the Swordmaster like wanted that. Now, whether or not there's some element of like him going crazy for some reason to where like maybe he didn't have agency, like remains to be seen. Maybe that's on the table, but at least for Samura, I think he wants justice. He wants to kill the Swordmaster actually, and then probably destroy the blade somehow as well to prevent any possibility of a malediction happening in the future. But yeah, I don't think he's trying to save him. And then finally today, I want to give a big shout out to Cubicle Katana. And I don't know why, but I love that name. It was like, it's fun to like imagine a Cubicle Katana. But he didn't have a question, was just showing some love for the content in the Kagurabachi videos. And my guy, thank you so much. And thank all of you for the support on the Kagurabachi stuff. It's been a pleasure. And I honestly didn't even mean to yap this much. Like, I thought this would be a quick-ish video where I talked about the chapter being delayed and, you know, yapped a little bit about these questions, but here we are like 10 plus minutes deep. So hopefully you guys are here for it, and, you know, we'll find a way to make it through this break week. But as always, y'all, thanks for watching.